The chamber of the Galactic Senate was filled with light, but inside it felt darker than ever. Hundreds of alien voices echoed, sharp laughter bouncing off the metal walls. On the giant screen in the center floated a small transmission. Human. Words translated in dozens of languages. "Stay away from Earth," the message said, "or face consequences." The laughter grew louder. The Zorath Dominion's High Chancellor leaned back on his throne, his golden armor shining. "Is this a joke? Humans? Threatening us?" His 4 eyes narrowed with amusement. "Do they even exist anymore?" A counselor with blue scales hissed, "Their world is weak. Their fleets are dust. They are nothing but a forgotten race." Another added with a sneer, "Perhaps they discovered an old transmitter and decided to play war." The chamber filled again with laughter, sharp and cruel. But not everyone laughed. A younger general, Commander Vera, watched silently. She had seen something strange on the frontier. Reports spoke of a black shadow moving between stars, faster than scanners could track. Patrols had gone missing. Entire convoys had vanished. She kept her doubts hidden, but unease gnawed at her. Far away, in the dark void beyond the Senate's knowledge, a ship drifted silently. It was unlike anything in the Dominion. The vessel's hull was black as space, its shape sharp and predatory. No lights marked its surface, and no transmissions betrayed its presence. It moved with terrifying calm, a beast waiting to strike. Inside the ship, the crew of the Terran warship Oblivion's Wrath watched the alien borders. The captain, an older man with a scar down his cheek, spoke quietly to his officers. They laughed at the warning, he said. His voice was steady, but his eyes burned cold. "Now they will see the cost." One officer, a woman with iron-grey hair, leaned closer. "Do we strike first?" "Not yet," the captain answered. "Let them come. Let them believe we are. Shadows. Fear is the first weapon. Fire comes later." Back at the Dominion capital, the Council dismissed the human threat as nonsense. "Send a patrol fleet," the Chancellor commanded. "Show these ghosts their place." A squadron of warships left for the frontier, sleek silver vessels armed with plasma cannons. The soldiers on board were confident. Humans were myths, nothing more. 3 days later, a faint distress signal flickered through the Dominion network. Static filled the channels, then a broken voice screamed, "It's not a ship, it's a monster!" The signal cut off. The Senate received only silence afterward. "Technical failure," said one admiral quickly. "Or pirates, nothing more." But Commander Vera saw the shadow behind his eyes. He was afraid. Another fleet was dispatched, larger this time. 50 ships. They entered the sector where the patrol had vanished. Their scanners searched. Nothing. The stars burned quietly, cold and distant. Then the black ship appeared. No warning, no light. One moment the void was empty. The next moment the Oblivion's Wrath was there, gliding out of nothing. The Dominion admiral shouted, "Identify yourself!" A human voice replied, calm and low, carried across every ship's comm. "We warned you once. You did not listen." The Dominion admiral sneered. "You dare threaten the Zorith Dominion. You are a single ship. We are 50. Fire!" The stars lit up with plasma fire, a storm of energy crashing toward the Terran vessel. But the human warship moved like a phantom. Shields flared, weapons screamed, and in a heartbeat, 3 Dominion ships exploded into burning fragments. The crews screamed in shock. The admiral shouted again, "Form formation, surround them!" But the human ship cut through their lines like a blade through silk. Missiles launched in perfect silence, striking one target after another. Alien vessels shattered. In less than 5 minutes, half the fleet was gone. Panic spread. A captain shouted, "Retreat, retreat!" But retreat was impossible. Engines failed, systems fried, entire ships vanished into flame. The last voice heard across the comm was a desperate whisper. "They fight like demons. They do not fight to win. They fight to end us. Then only static. Back in the Senate chamber, silence replaced laughter. Reports came in one after another. 50 ships gone, no survivors. The High Chancellor slammed his clawed hand on the table. Impossible. No race can destroy our fleet so easily. But Commander Vera whispered almost to herself, humans can. The Senate turned toward her. She rose to her feet. I told you. Something moves in the shadows. You thought them extinct. You thought them weak. But humans learn from war. They do not forget. They do not forgive. The chamber erupted with angry voices. Some demanded war. Others demanded peace. But beneath all the noise, one truth spread through every mind in the room. Fear. And far across, the stars. In the dark command chamber of the Oblivion's Wrath, the human captain stared at a map of the Dominion worlds. They laughed. He said softly, "Now we will teach them silence." His officers watched in silence as he raised a hand over the glowing map. Each star system pulsed like a heartbeat. The captain's hand closed into a fist. The galaxy had mocked the humans. Now their reckoning had begun. For centuries, the galaxy had believed Earth was silent. The archives of the Zorath Dominion listed humans as an unstable species, broken by their own wars and unable to rise again. Entire star charts marked their system as abandoned. But the truth was far different. In the quiet dark, far from alien eyes, humanity had been building. On a hidden base carved into the frozen surface of Europa, a council of Terran leaders sat around a black table. Holographic stars glowed above them, marking Dominion territory. Their faces were hard, their voices calm but sharp. They laughed at our warning, one admiral said. His hands were folded tightly, knuckles white. Now they know fear, but fear alone will not hold them back. Another officer, a woman with a cold gaze, answered, "It is only the beginning. They believe we are one ship. They do not yet see the fleet we have forged in silence." The room darkened as the hologram shifted. Dozens of black warships appeared in orbit around hidden bases, scattered across forgotten systems. Each ship carried weapons no alien empire had ever seen. Humanity had turned all its pain, all its losses, into steel and fire. The council's leader, an old general named Orcs, spoke at last. His voice was deep, worn by years of battle. "We were not silent because we were weak," he said. "We were silent because we were preparing. Every empire that mocked us will learn this truth. Humans do not forgive." Across the galaxy, whispers of the destroyed Dominion fleet spread like wildfire. Traders spoke of a ship black as death, moving faster than thought. Colonists on the edges of space claimed they saw fire in the skies. Fear crept into markets, taverns, and military outposts. Commander Vera, back on the Dominion capital, could feel it. The city's air was thick with tension. Soldiers trained harder, their eyes nervous. Civilians demanded answers. The Senate shouted louder every day, but their words no longer carried the same power. She stood before the High Chancellor. "The humans are not myths," she said firmly. "We must understand them before we fight them." The Chancellor glared down at her. "Understand? They destroyed 2 of our fleets. We will crush them before they rise further." "With respect," Vera replied, her voice steady. "That is what they want you to believe. They did not reveal their strength by accident. They are luring us, testing us. They want us to waste our power against shadows." The Chancellor slammed his clawed hand against the throne. "Enough! Prepare the Grand Armada. We will strike at their world directly. Earth will burn, and the galaxy will see that no one defies the Dominion." Vera bowed her head, but inside she felt a chill. She had studied humans more than anyone else in the chamber, and she knew one truth. Humans were not hunters of victory. They were survivors of extinction. They never fought fair. Far beyond the Dominion capital, the Oblivion's Wrath glided through the void. Inside the dark control room, Captain Hale stood before his officers. His scarred face was calm, but his eyes carried fire. "The Dominion prepares their grand fleet," an officer reported. "Scanners show heavy movement near their core systems." Hale nodded slowly. "Exactly as we expected. They will come, with everything. They will believe Earth is weak. That belief will kill them." He turned to his second-in-command, Commander Arden. "Do you remember the old wars? The ones before the stars?" Arden's face was grim. "Yes, Captain. We fought each other. Millions died. We learned to fight not for pride, but survival." Hale's voice dropped lower. "And that is why they cannot win. They fight for power. We fight because we must. Survival is the sharpest blade." The ship's crew listened in silence. Every man and woman aboard had been trained for one purpose: to protect humanity, no matter the cost. In a quiet corner of the galaxy, a Dominion scout ship stumbled across something it was never meant to see. A hidden Terran shipyard built into an asteroid belt. The pilot gasped as he saw hundreds of warships in various stages of construction. Black steel glimmered under artificial lights, silent but alive with promise. Before he could send a full "Report!" alarms screamed. A human interceptor uncloaked, fast and merciless. The Dominion pilot's hand shook as he sent a desperate signal. "They are building a fleet of monsters. Warn the capital." His message cut off in static as his ship exploded, but fragments of the signal reached the Dominion Senate. When the news spread, chaos broke out. "It is impossible," shouted one counselor. "No race could build so much in silence." Another hissed, "If this is true, we are already doomed." The High Chancellor roared, "We will not be ruled by fear. Ready the Grand Fleet. The humans will die." But in the shadows of the chamber, Commander Vera whispered to herself, "Or we will." Back on the Oblivion's Wrath, Captain Hale received the intercepted signal. He knew the Dominion had discovered the truth. He looked over the map of the galaxy once more. The Dominion fleet markers glowed like a spreading fire. "They will come for Earth now," Arden said. "Yes," Hale answered, his voice like stone. "And when they arrive, they will find not prey, but predators." He turned toward his crew. "The time for hiding is ending. Soon the galaxy will know what it means to fight humanity." Outside the warship, the stars stretched silent and cold, as if holding their breath. In that silence, a new war was about to begin, one that would shatter empires and rewrite the fate of the galaxy. The stars above the Dominion's central world burned bright as the Grand Fleet prepared for war. Thousands of ships lined up in perfect formation, their silver hulls reflecting the light of distant suns. It was the largest force the galaxy had seen in centuries. The High Chancellor stood in his war chamber, staring at the fleet through the massive glass window. "Today," he declared to the gathered generals, "the humans will be erased. Their world will be ash, and the galaxy will learn that the Dominion cannot be mocked." Cheers rose from the commanders, but not from Commander Vera. She kept her face calm, though unease churned in her chest. She remembered the destroyed patrols, the whispers of fear, the shadow ship that tore fleets apart. "Chancellor," she said carefully, "humans do not fight like us. They will not wait for a fair battle. If we send everything into their system, we may be walking into a trap." The Chancellor's 4 eyes glared down at her. "Fear has poisoned your mind, Vera. The Dominion does not fear shadows." Vera bowed her head, but her thoughts whispered otherwise. The Dominion should. The Grand Fleet roared into faster-than-light travel, vanishing into the darkness of space. Their target, Sol System. Far away, the Oblivion's Wrath watched their approach. Captain Hale stood in the dark command room, his scar glowing faintly under the cold light. His officers stood silent, waiting. "The Dominion moves," Commander Arden reported. "Thousands of ships. They aim for Earth." Hale did not flinch. "And Earth waits for them." He activated the holomap. It revealed not just Earth, but the hidden defenses spread across the system. cloaked stations, minefields, orbital cannons, and warships that had never been seen by alien eyes. The humans had turned their home into a fortress. The captain's voice was calm, but each word carried iron. They believe we are prey. Let them come closer. Let them see the teeth of the prey they mocked. When the Dominion fleet entered the Sol system, their scanners lit up with thousands of contacts. But the humans did not attack at once. Instead, silence filled the void. Earth turned slowly below, blue and green, beautiful and fragile. The Dominion admiral smirked. So this is their home? A child's world. Begin bombardment preparations. Before his command could be carried out, a single voice broke into their communications. It was human, deep and steady. You came to our home, the voice said. You laughed at our warning. Now you will learn. Then the darkness erupted. From behind the moon, black warships appeared, their hulls shimmering like shadows made of steel. Orbital cannons lit the skies with fire. Mines detonated across the fleet, ripping ships apart before they could even react. The Dominion admiral screamed, "Form shields! Return fire!" The battle exploded into chaos. Thousands of ships filled the void, energy beams and missiles crossing like burning rain. The Dominion was powerful, but they were disoriented. They had expected a weak defense, not a nightmare of traps and ambushes. One Dominion captain shouted, "They knew we were coming." This was prepared. Human warships moved in deadly silence. They struck from behind asteroids, from the shadows of planets, from cloaked positions the Dominion never imagined. For every human ship destroyed, 5 Dominion vessels fell in flame. In the chaos, Commander Vera's ship tried to hold the line. She shouted to her crew, "Do not break formation, cover the carriers." But then she saw it. The Oblivions. Wrath itself, sliding through the battlefield like a phantom. Its weapons cut through Dominion capital ships with terrifying precision. It didn't fire wildly. Every shot counted, every strike crippled. Her comm officer whispered in fear, "That ship. It fights like it knows every move we make." Vera's eyes widened. "Because it does," she murmured. They studied us. Across the battlefield, the Dominion admiral watched his proud fleet crumble. "Impossible," he muttered. "We outnumber them 10 to 1. But numbers meant nothing. The humans had turned the system into a killing ground. Inside the Oblivion's wrath, Captain Hale watched the battle unfold. His officers waited for his order. He spoke quietly, almost coldly. "Target their command ships. Break their spine." Moments later, 3 Dominion flagships erupted into fireballs. Their chain of command shattered. Without orders, the fleet dissolved into chaos. Some ships fought desperately, others fled, colliding into each other in panic. Then, something unexpected happened. A human transmission opened across every channel, not words of mockery, not threats, but a simple choice. Those who surrender will live. Those who continue will not. Silence filled the comms. Thousands of Dominion soldiers heard the voice. For the first time in their empire's long history, enemy mercy was offered in the middle of battle. Many captains lowered their weapons, their crews desperate to survive, but others, too proud, kept fighting and were destroyed. On her bridge, Commander Vera gritted her teeth. She could see the truth now. The humans were not trying to win a single battle. They were breaking the Dominion's spirit. The fighting slowed. Fires burned across the void, ships broken and drifting. What was once the largest fleet in the galaxy was now scattered wreckage orbiting the blue planet below. Captain Hale stood at the center of his command deck. His voice was quiet, but carried across every surviving Dominion channel. "This is the price of laughter. This is the price of arrogance. Remember it well." The comms went silent again, and the Oblivion's wrath vanished into the dark, leaving only wreckage and fear behind. On the surviving Dominion ships, officers stared at the destruction in shock. The galaxy's greatest empire had just tasted Defeat at the hands of those they once called weak. Commander Vera stood at her window, her chest tight. She whispered to herself, "This is not the end. This is only the beginning." And far away on Earth's surface, people looked up at the night sky. They did not cheer. They did not celebrate. They knew what their leaders knew. This battle was only the first step in a war that would shake the galaxy itself. The Dominion capital was not silent. It roared with panic. Markets shook, streets filled with whispers, and soldiers marched faster than before. The proud empire that once mocked humans now trembled at their name. The Grand Fleet, their strongest weapon, had been shattered at Earth. Survivors limped home with broken hulls and broken spirits. In the Senate chamber, arguments exploded like thunder. "This is madness," one councillor cried. "We lost thousands of ships to a single world." "Humans tricked us," another shouted. "They set traps, hid weapons, built fleets in shadows. They are not weak, they are predators." The High Chancellor slammed his claws against the table. His eyes burned with fury. "Silence! We are the Dominion. We have ruled this galaxy for centuries. We will not bow to a race of savages." But the chamber no longer echoed with laughter. Fear crept into every word, every gesture. Commander Vera stood at the side of the room, listening. She had returned from the battle, her ship damaged but intact. She had seen the truth with her own eyes. The humans fought like no other race. They were not careless warriors. They were survivors who used every weakness of their enemy. She stepped forward. "Chancellor, we cannot win this war by pride alone. We must understand the humans. We must learn who they are, or we will fall." The Chancellor glared at her, but for the first time he did not shout. He looked at the faces around him. Councillors who once cheered now trembled. Generals who once bragged now sat in silence. The fear was spreading. Meanwhile, across the Empire, ordinary citizens whispered the same question: "What are humans?" In taverns on frontier worlds, merchants told stories. "They move like shadows," one said, lowering his voice. "An entire fleet gone in minutes. They gave us mercy, but only once." On a mining colony, a worker shivered as he remembered the broadcast. That voice, that human voice. It wasn't cruel, it wasn't angry. It was cold, like a knife of ice. Even soldiers began to question their leaders. A young officer asked his commander, "If humans can destroy the Grand Fleet, what chance do we have?" The commander gave no answer. In the shadows of the Dominion, rebellion stirred. Worlds that had long suffered under the Chancellor's rule saw weakness at last. If the mighty Dominion could bleed, perhaps they could break. Far away on the Oblivion's wrath, Captain Hale stood with his crew. Reports of fear across the Empire filled their screens. His officers looked at him, waiting for orders. "They are breaking," Commander Arden said. "Whispers spread faster than fire. The Dominion will soon turn on itself." Hale nodded slowly. "This is the true war. Not fleets, not fire. Fear. We strike at their spirit, and the Empire will fall. From within." One young officer asked, "Captain, why not destroy them all now? Why wait?" Hale's scarred face turned toward him. His voice was steady but sharp. "Because destruction is quick. Fear lasts longer. If we burn their empire today, others will rise tomorrow. But if we make them fear humans, truly fear us, then no one will ever try again." The crew fell silent. They understood. This was not just about victory, it was about survival. Humanity would carve its place into the galaxy with terror as its shield. Back on the Dominion capital, the Chancellor prepared a desperate move. He called his inner circle. "We will build again," he growled. "A new fleet, stronger, larger. We will crush their homeworld with overwhelming force." But one general spoke cautiously, his voice almost trembling. "Chancellor, many of our shipyards are empty. Our workers whisper of rebellion. Our colonies hesitate to send resources. Fear spreads faster than orders." The Chancellor's eyes blazed with rage. Then we will rule with fear, execute those who refuse, burn any world that resists. The dominion will not fall. Vera stood in silence, her heart heavy. She saw what he did not. The more the Chancellor tightened his grip, the more worlds would slip away. That night, in the quiet of her quarters, she looked out over the capital's endless lights. She whispered to herself, "Humans do not even need to destroy us. We are destroying ourselves." In the darkness of space, rebellion flared on distant planets. Colonies declared independence. Armies split their loyalties. The once mighty dominion began to fracture piece by piece. On one border world, soldiers refused orders to attack. Instead, they broadcast a message across open channels. "We will not fight humans. We surrender." The message spread like a spark in dry grass. When Captain Hale heard it aboard the Oblivion's Wrath, he gave no smile, only a quiet nod. "It begins," he said. Commander Arden looked at him. "What begins?" "The fall," Hale answered. His eyes were cold, his voice firm. "We have shown them the cost of laughter. Now they will learn the cost of fear." And as the stars glimmered across the black sky, the Dominion's proud empire shook from within, breaking not by fire, but by terror, planted deep in every heart. The Dominion stars no longer shone with pride. They burned with fear. Reports of rebellion spread from one system to another. Colonies refused to send resources. Armies split. Generals whispered of surrender. And across the empire, people spoke a name they once mocked. Humans. But fear alone would not end the war. Humanity was ready for the next step. Inside the dark war room of the Oblivion's Wrath, Captain Hale studied the holomap. Red marks glowed where Dominion fleets gathered. Blue points marked the hidden Terran strike groups waiting in silence. His officers stood around him, tense but focused. Commander Arden leaned closer. "Their core worlds remain strong, Captain. Even broken, the Dominion still commands millions of soldiers. If we strike wrong, we will bleed." Hale's scarred face was calm. "We will not strike wrong. We strike everywhere." The crew waited. Hale's voice was low, but steady, like iron. "We are not here to conquer. We are here to break their empire. Cut the arteries and the body dies." He turned to the officers. "Tonight, the Dominion learns that humans are not shadows hiding in the dark. Tonight we come for their core." Across the galaxy, hidden Terran fleets came alive. Engines roared, black warships left their secret bases, and weapons hummed. With deadly power, humanity was no longer silent. On the Dominion capital, the High Chancellor stood in his palace, trembling with rage. News of rebellion and desertion reached him every hour. "Crush them!" he shouted at his generals. "Burn every world that resists. If we must kill our own people to keep this empire alive, so be it." But even as he spoke, alarms rang across the skies of the capital. Explosions lit the horizon. Terran ships had arrived. Not one fleet. Not one strike. Dozens. All across Dominion space, human forces attacked at once. In the skies above the industrial world of Korath, Dominion shipyards burned. Black warships descended like hawks, missiles striking with surgical precision. Workers fled, soldiers screamed, and entire stations fell silent in fire. On the agricultural world of Trelna, orbital defenses activated too late. Terran soldiers landed on the surface, swift and ruthless, but they did not slaughter civilians. Instead, they broadcast a message across the planet. "We do not come for you. We come for your masters. Lay down your arms and live." The people obeyed. Farmers, workers, even soldiers dropped their weapons. For the first time in centuries, they tasted freedom not granted by the Dominion's rule. Meanwhile, in deep space, a massive Dominion fleet tried to regroup. But before they could form, human ships appeared around them from every angle. The battle was chaos. Dominion captains shouted orders, but panic spread as their formations collapsed. "They're everywhere!" a pilot cried. "They strike before we can even aim." And above it all, the Oblivion's wrath cut through the battlefield like a blade. "Commander." Arden turned to Hale. "We are breaking them, sir, world by world, fleet by fleet." Hale's eyes stayed on the burning map. "Not enough. The Chancellor still breathes. As long as he sits on that throne, the Dominion believes it lives. We cut off the head." The decision was made. The Terrans would strike at the heart of the Empire, the Dominion capital itself. On the planet, the Chancellor stood on his balcony as flames rose in the distance. He could see fear in the streets below, the once proud citizens now running in panic. He snarled to his guards, "Prepare the last defenses. If humans dare come here, they will drown in fire." But deep down, he felt the truth. His empire was bleeding to death, and every drop of blood was human-made. The night came. Above the capital, the sky darkened as the Terran fleet arrived. Not a whisper, not a warning. Suddenly, the stars vanished, replaced by the shadows of black warships. Citizens screamed, soldiers raised their weapons, alarms howled across the planet. Then a voice spread across every channel, cold and steady. "This is your last chance. Surrender or burn." The Chancellor roared back through the comms. "Never! We are the Dominion. We bow to no one." His words echoed hollow. Many of his fleets had already surrendered. Many of his soldiers had already laid down arms. But he refused. Pride chained him even as his empire collapsed. On the Oblivion's wrath, Hale's crew waited for his order. His eyes stayed fixed on the capital below. His voice was quiet but final. "Strike." The skies lit up with fire. Orbital cannons shattered, defense fleets crumbled. Towers that had stood for centuries fell in burning waves. The Dominion capital, once untouchable, became a storm of chaos. Commander Arden whispered, almost in awe, "It's over." But Hale shook his head. "No, not yet. The Chancellor will fight to his last breath, and we will give him that chance." In the palace, guards fought desperately as Terran soldiers advanced. The Chancellor, claws drawn, screamed with rage as the walls shook with explosions. "You think you can destroy me?" he roared. "I am the Dominion." But when the palace gates fell and the human soldiers entered, even his voice could not hide the truth. The Dominion was broken. The people of the capital watched from the streets as the palace burned. For the first time in living memory, their empire had no master, and high above, the Terran fleet hovered in silence. Captain Hale stood on his bridge, his scarred face set in stone. "This was not conquest," he said quietly. "This was survival. Let them remember it." The Dominion's core had been shattered, and across the galaxy, the echo of its fall carried one message: humanity had returned, and nothing would ever be the same again. The palace of the Dominion lay in ruins. Smoke rose from the broken towers, flames spread across the streets, and the once proud banners of the Empire burned in the wind. The High Chancellor was gone, his voice silenced at last. But the war was not over. The galaxy itself now waited to see what the humans would do. On the Oblivion's wrath, Captain Hale stood before the great holomap. Red marks, the Dominion's strongholds, were fading one by one. Blue marks of surrender flickered across the map like spreading fire. But the galaxy was still watching. Dozens of other empires, kingdoms, and coalitions stared into the void, wondering if humanity would turn its wrath upon them next. Commander Arden broke the silence. "It is done. The Dominion is finished." Hale's eyes stayed on the map. No, the Dominion's throne is empty, but fear still rules. Fear spreads faster than fire, and it will not stop here. One young officer frowned. "Do we crush the rest? Do we take their worlds as our own?" The room went silent, waiting for Hale's answer. His scarred face turned, his voice steady. "No, we do not conquer. We do not chain. We survive. And to survive, we must send a message. Outside the ship, the Terran fleet gathered above the ruined capital. Hundreds of warships hung in the sky like black shadows, silent but heavy with power. Civilians below stared upward, expecting death. Instead, a transmission filled the air, across the galaxy, on distant colonies, in taverns, on warships, in council chambers. Screens lit up. A human face appeared, scarred and unflinching. Captain Hale's voice carried across every star. You laughed at our warning. You thought us weak. You thought us gone. And yet, here we stand. His words echoed in silence. No one dared interrupt. We did not seek war. We sought only peace. But when you mocked our silence, when you came to our home with fire, you forced our hand. Now your empire lies in ruin, not because we desired it, but because you demanded it. In the Dominion capital, survivors trembled as the message played. In the far reaches of the galaxy, alien leaders leaned closer to their screens, fear written on their faces. Hale's voice grew colder. Remember this truth. Humanity does not bow. Humanity does not forgive. If you bring war to our door, you will not find prey. You will find predators. The screen went black. The message was sent. But the silence that followed was more powerful than fire. Across the galaxy, worlds whispered. Some feared, some respected, some even cheered in secret. But all understood. The humans had returned, and the balance of power would never be the same. On the streets of the fallen capital, Commander Vera walked among the ruins. She had survived where so many others had not. Her people looked to her for guidance, but she felt no pride, only a heavy weight. She looked to the sky, where the Terran fleet hung like silent gods. One of her soldiers whispered, "What now? Will they rule us?" Vera shook her head. "No, they do not want thrones. They want to be left alone. That is what makes them more dangerous than rulers. They have no hunger for power, only survival, and nothing in this galaxy fights harder than a species that refuses to die." In the shadowed council chamber light years away, leaders of other empires argued in panic. "If they destroyed the Dominion, they can destroy us," one shouted. Another replied, trembling, "Then do not provoke them. Do not even approach their worlds." A third whispered the truth none wanted to admit. The galaxy belongs to them now, not by conquest, but by fear. Meanwhile, aboard the Oblivion's Wrath, Hale dismissed his officers for the night. Alone, he stood by the viewing window, staring into the endless stars. His reflection stared back, scarred and cold. Commander Arden entered quietly. "The galaxy listens, Captain. They fear us. Perhaps that is enough." "Fear fades," Hale answered. "In time, someone will forget, someone will test us again, and when they do, we will remind them." Arden frowned. "And if they never stop, if war never ends?" For the first time, Hale's voice softened, almost weary. "Then we will never stop either. That is the curse of survival. It never ends." The two men stood in silence, watching. The stars. Beyond them, the Terran fleet drifted quietly, black and unyielding. They did not conquer, they did not claim, but they remained, silent predators in the dark. Down below, in the ruins of the Dominion, children looked to the sky with wide eyes. They would grow up remembering the day humans came, not as invaders, not as rulers, but as shadows that shattered an empire with fire and fear. And across the galaxy, every ruler, every soldier, every citizen carried the same thought. Terrans had spoken. Terrans had survived, and no one would ever laugh at them again. The war was over, but the message was eternal. In the endless silence of space, humanity's voice echoed like a warning carved into the stars. Never mistake our silence for weakness.